Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, when or wherever you may be. Now, folks, let's talk a bit about the madness of the king and how absolutely sad it is. I know a lot of people find it amusing to see the state in which the President of the United States is, how he is acting, how he is moving. But myself, to tell you the truth, I feel pity. Honestly, I know who the guy is. I know what he's been accused. I know, I know absolutely all of that. I know his incompetence. I know his infantile personality. I understand all of that. But it's absolutely sad to see a person drag himself across the dance floor, so to speak, and make such a mockery of himself, of his country, and of the political system of his country in the year they are celebrating 250 years of existence. It was an absolutely sad spectacle to watch the President of the United States walk down the carpets, and he had to lean on President Erdogan, that is also an elderly man, but that still keeps his wits about him, that still moves around. And I'm going to tell you this little story. My parents taught me that you should never mock other people's disabilities or issues or whatever. There were mentally retarded people in the town where I lived. Some of them were neighbors, and yet, because they were older than us, some of them were even as old as my parents, or a bit younger or a bit older. We would always call them sir and madam. In Portuguese, senhor is senhor. Okay, it would be Mr. This, sir, madam that. Okay, and also, whenever someone was sick, even if it was a person that you detested, even if it was a political figure or whatever, my parents never mocked these types of things. And I am going to call myself out because this is a lesson that I should not forget. I did mock Donald Trump. And I don't regret it. Let me be clear, because after all the things that he's been doing, after all the lies that he's speaking, how could anyone, how can anyone with a human mind not be prone to make ridiculous of what he does? He lies, he cheats, he goes back constantly on his word. He spends the night sending things to his Truth Social and crashing the oil market, making our lives harder on his own country or on the world. He doesn't care about the American people. He's canceling every right the American people has, and for that I will mock him. But as for his disease, that is where I draw a line. I don't mock people's diseases, because you don't know when it will be your turn to be sick, or someone that you love to be sick. And this is something very important that I felt like saying, but you have to understand this does not alter my position to the character. I still consider him to be a bad person. an evil person, even a conniving person, someone that has spent his entire life living off others, of making other people's lives into misery by buying businesses, then thanking them to get money out of it. So predatory capitalism. He doesn't know how to act around people. He has no politeness towards women, something that really annoys me. You know, if I was to qualify me, I would qualify myself as a gentleman. Okay, because I think you should live your life according to some principles at least. I'm not saying or be like those classic gentlemen. Oh my darling, fourth hall was done. No, nothing like that shit. Meaning having a certain way of act. Even if a woman is not a classy person, you should treat her as such, because that is your duty as a man. This is what a gentleman is. A gentleman is someone that tries to be civil and polite. Simple as this. And that man, he is not a gentleman. Not at all. Not even close. Not even remotely. So I'm not going to excuse that. But what I would say is this. It starts to annoy me. People, the two sides of the barricade. The people that are constantly insulting his obvious physical decline, and the other ones that are trying to excuse his actions for that with that. No, in my opinion, he still knows what the hell he's doing. He does know. He does it with a purpose. Maybe because his decline has begun to increase. Perhaps he doesn't understand the real consequences of his actions and of his words. But look, it was an absolute mockery to watch the man talk about Greenland like a kid that won't get his favorite toy. It was absolutely ludicrous, ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous the way other people around him, other world leaders, would just not talk with him. This is the truth. Because they didn't want to mess in that can of worms. Because right now, we all know that whatever he decides, tomorrow he might decide not to do or do in some different way. He's constantly backing out of his word. He's constantly saying he's going to do something and then he does the opposite. And this has become a real issue for the United States, because you see, other countries won't forget this shit. Other politicians, they won't forget this. Okay, the kids that are growing up right now and that are watching their parents having to make extraordinary efforts to keep the car with gasoline, okay, keep the bills paid and all of that shit, and constantly talking about what the United States is doing and this and that. Those kids are going to grow up and they are not going to forget. You know, guys like me, we are not going to forget. And if I'm lucky, I still have a couple of decades to live. If I'm lucky, of course, you never know the day of tomorrow. You can drop dead at any moment, literally. Because that is the nature of life and there's nothing about it you can do, so better just enjoy it as it lasts. But what I'm trying to tell you is this. We are focusing too much on the theater. And we are not focusing in the real geopolitical, political, economic consequences that this is having already and that it will have in the future. We are seeing the American industrial military complex being dismantled by the actions of the presidency. When Portugal gets out of the contract for the F-35, okay, that would be 6 billion euros. That's a problem for whoever is making those jets. When Canada buys in Europe instead of the United States, it's a problem. When the President of the United States cancels CUSMA, it's a problem for the United States of America, because Canada will sell elsewhere. Canada will suffer? Yes, of course it will. Their economies have been intertwined for decades. It will be hard. It will be really hard. And let me tell you this, I really admire the way the Canadians are acting, their national pride, their decency. It's really admirable, okay? You look at those people and you see that the stereotype of the hard-working, friendly Canadian, it's not a bloody stereotype. Most of them are like that. They also have their maple magas, but we also have magas in Portugal, and in Spain, and in France, and in Germany, because this is a breed of idiots that we should be more careful about crushing and eliminating. And I'm saying this, I'm not saying shoot up people in the middle of the bloody street. I'm against violence, but I'm saying we have to cancel these people through education, because education is the only way we are going to get rid of this. Okay, the only way we are going to tackle climate change and all of this political instability, it begins in education. Look, you need to feed the person, clothe the person, get him a job, and educate him, and give him health care. If you do that, societies are stable. But education is essential, because education is the gateway to all of those stepping stones to a more just and democratic society. Educated people question things. Educated people question why there are so many wealthy bastards while there are so many poor bastards. We question that. We question the things in society. We read things. We understand laws and regulations. We understand the broader consequences of our vote. And make no look, there are people that are trying to crush that. Okay, have no issues with it. I'm watching very carefully the laws that are being approved here in the EU. I'm watching real careful, because if they are applied correctly, then I personally agree with them, because I think we need more control in a certain number of things. But if they are used as a bridge for something else, authoritarian, no. Fight it all the way. But this should tell you that if you are an American and you are listening to me, don't think it's all in your country. Think that the ripple effects of what is happening in your country magnifies the effects all over the world. But don't think it's exclusively because of that. Because in the United States, there is a lack of education that has permitted that the ghosts of the Confederacy are still alive and well today. This all roots back to that. Look, you can tell me, oh, but there are Latinos for Trump and all that. My friend, Don't look at the skin color. Look at the words. There are bigots that are black. There are bigots that are Asian. There are bigots that are of all effing colors of the rainbow. The most bigot person that and I have spoken about this in other videos, but the biggest bigot that I ever met in my entire life was a half black guy that called himself a communist. And he was the biggest bastard that I ever met in my life. He was a racist. Okay, yeah, I know. He was a bigot. He was all of that. Intolerant. Let's stop with talking about that guy. But what I'm trying to tell you is this. You are too focused on the sitcom, on the disgrace of the president, on his disease, that he's clearly a sick man. And I'm not talking about the crimes that he is accused of. And apparently, I believe, personally, this is my personal opinion, I believe in the people that are accusing him, because no one would subject themselves to such a shame and embarrassment if they didn't have a good reason. And you are going to say, money, money. No, money doesn't pay for that shit. Money doesn't pay for you when you say you are a rape victim and you are lying in a bed next to someone else. Money doesn't pay that shame. Money doesn't pay the problems of their lives, the failed relationships, undoubtedly. All of the issues that these people have. Their lost childhood, all of that. So I personally believe in them. And I believe in them not for emotional reasons, but for logical reasons. But what I'm trying to tell you in this video is this. I have explained why I think I should not mock the Führer anymore. I won't, but I will call him out every step of the way. But you are focusing too much in that sad spectacle of the man walking down the carpet, holding on to another old man that had to guide him to wherever he had to go, or the way that he was talking when he was being interviewed. Okay, the kid after Greenland like a boy after a popsicle. Okay, you are focusing too much on that, and you are not seeing things like that guy that is now the head of he's replacing Noam, Christy Norman. I don't recall the name of the guy. Sorry. As you can see, I don't take notes. I don't do anything. Okay, I research things, I stick them in my head, and then I speak with you. And these days have not been very good, unfortunately, to me. But as I was saying, that guy, you don't see things like that guy getting more power over the prison system. You don't see the reports of people that apparently are disappearing into ice camps. I really hope that some of the things that I have been hearing about the scams are not real. Because if that is real, then the situation to the United States will even be worse. Much worse. Now, recently, they have killed another person. I think it was a Brazilian guy that had a construction company or something, and that was living in the United States for more than 30 years. And he was rammed by an unmarked car and shot. And shit like this is happening all over the country. A lot of it is going unreported. Because the reporters, they can't be everywhere. and testimonies, they cannot be everywhere. Some guy driving with in his car down the road, stopped by a nice patrol, and for whatever reasons they shoot him. The car gets stolen and he gets disappeared. I sincerely hope that is not happening, but it's a real hypothesis because of the way that they are acting. They are not acting as a police force. They are acting as an invading force, almost like some kind of urban army with limitless funds, with camps, with cover from the law, with cover from procedure, with anonymity. Do you realize how dangerous that is? And yet you allowed it. You allowed it. You, the Americans, you allowed it because you did not want to vote in a black woman. And I have said this in other videos. I don't think Harris was the ideal candidate. I think Joe Biden should have just left before his decline became apparent too, and just got a candidate that would actually be able to beat the media machine behind Trump and money machine behind Trump. But if you had given yourself the trouble to vote in the woman instead of voting in the guy that had botched the COVID response and all of that, if you had made yourself courageous enough to vote in a woman, something that I don't bloody understand, I would vote in a woman if I considered she was the best option for me and for my political ideas or whatever, or for my country. I wouldn't care if it was a gay person, if it was a woman or whatever. I would not care about that. But there are sincerely a lot of people, a lot of Democrats that didn't vote for her solely because she was a woman and a black woman, or half black, half Indian, whatever she is. I don't care. And then a lot of you just say it's not worth to vote. They are both the same. And you elect a guy that was saying in his rallies, I will be a dictator day one. And then you're like, oh no, we thought he was just playing. Playing? You play with your fucking vote. You play with your effing freedom of choice. You play with your freedom. You gambit with the destiny of the children of your country. How many people are going to die in Iran if the lunatic decides to put boots on the ground? How many? How many have already died from the conflict? Have you stopped to think about that? And then some of you shitheads coming into my comments section to post Trump propaganda and offending other people that are commenting. You have the balls to do that? Because you know, I'm not an idiot. I can tell when it's Autobots, when it's bots, and when it's people. I even learned to recognize a couple of you in your assaulted personalities, incarnations. How can... Look, why are you Americans focused on shit like the United States playing a terrible game in that comedy that it's the World Cup? I have not been watching it, but apparently you lost to Belgium even after your president paid FIFA to allow the star player of the American team to play. Even with the star player, you got beaten. And then you come into the comment sections and talk about your GDP is this of Belgium, and just it's just about just that one of the GDP. Did you know that the average GDP per citizen of Belgium is about twice of the United States? Because when you talk about total GDP, that means nothing. Musk must account for a significant part of your GDP, but that doesn't help Billy Bob, that is working a shift at a factory of Lockheed Martin that's going to shut down in somewhere in Illinois, because your president has f up the selling of weapons to the guarantee market in Europe. That's not going to help Billy Bob. Average GDP, that is what should matter. But no, you don't think about that. But as long as these people are there, you are always just focused on the comedy, and you will not focus on the real issues. And while you watch the Trump boat pass by, your democracy is sinking into chaos. And look, maybe now with the primaries you will get the Democrats, and you will get a nice Democrat president that will come out and send flowers and advice für everyone. Sorry, fell into the German. Entschuldigen mich. Maybe you'll get a president that will do that. But that, my friends, is not going to solve all of this shit that has been happening. It will solve nothing, because we won't forget. Even if we say we forgive, we won't forget. The world won't forget. And right now, you are in an extremely dangerous position. And you are endangering your allies too. The allies that you still barely have. And unless this Iran shenanigan ends, and your little president goes back to his golden ballroom in Washington, D.C., and plays with his fingers and with his Truth Social until the end of his term, and you have the Democrats to keep the country afloat, unless you do that, this won't be a long fall. This will be jumping off a cliff. But I want to end this video by saying this. I won't mock the disease of that person. In fact, really, if this business of Mr. Trump in the United States was not so relevant to Europe, to the continent where I live, I wouldn't even talk about it right now. I always say that you say something when you care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't talk about it. I used to say that to the Americans, and you want to know what? I'm starting not caring. Because it's too much. It's too much theater. It's too much repetition. It's always the same saying. He's losing this, he's losing that, and yet the effects are still here. What use? Let me tell you this. I still got their funding. They still killed that man that I talked about. I think his last name was Araújo. They still killed that man. Better yet, they still assassinated that man. Okay? Alex Pretty is not here with us, right? He was murdered too. and the other girl, the Renee, and all of the countless so-called illegal migrants that have disappeared into the ether. God knows where they are. Perhaps, perhaps I don't know. Perhaps I hope not, but perhaps buried in some unmarked grave. Because yes, I am putting that hypothesis. I am putting that. I am putting it out. It's a real hypothesis. Those things might be really happening. And yet, here we are, focused on the sitcom. Well, folks, this rant has gone long enough. I just wanted to make my position absolutely clear about this. And my position is that we have to focus on the politics and stop focusing on the disease of a man, which is basically what we have here. That man, Mr. Trump, he's sick. He has no business to do the job that he is doing. He's completely unfit to do it. And yet, here we are. And for the simple fact that we are here right now, sitting and discussing this, for that simple fact, the United States has already lost. And it has lost a lot. But who the hell am I? Just an anonymous voice online in a small channel, just talking to a camera. Well, maybe someone will listen to me. Folks, thank you very much for coming to watch my video, to watch my stuff, and I hope to catch you all in the next one. Please stay safe and take care of the people you love.